was! This is not over! This is still happening! Right now!
Hi everyone, and welcome to Priority Holder, and today we'll be playing Red-White Scam in the Timeless format. Now, Scam's an archetype where you play a pitch elemental, and as it's dying, you use some effect to bring it back into play. And so you get 2 bites of the apple, whatever its effect is, and then you have like a potent threat on the battlefield. Now, typically, black is involved because grief is a very strong Scam target, but today we're doing it in red-white. And so probably our strongest one is Fury, which is a 5 mana 3/3 double strike. And when it enters battlefield, basically casts Pyrokinesis. And we have to pitch a red card to evoke it. The other one is Solitude, 5 mana 3/2 flash lifelink. And when it enters battlefield, basically Swords to Plowshare something. And we can pitch white cards to evoke it. And so the way we scam people in red-white is with Ephemerate. It's a 1 mana instant, lets us blink a creature and return it back to the battlefield. And also rebounds on our upkeep, so we get another bite at the apple. And so this plays really well with other enter the battlefield abilities. And so we actually have other ways to complete the scam with Samwise the Stouthearted, which when this enters the battlefield lets us return a permanent that was put there from the battlefield this turn into our hand. So we can put the evoke elementals back into our hand with Samwise as another way to sort of scam them and reuse them later on. This also works really good with fetch lands and other end of the battlefield creatures. So we're playing Professor of Symbology, a 2 mana 2/1 that lets us learn when it enters the battlefield. And we could see our lesson board over here. Notably, these just provide different little effects, but notably many of them can pitch to the elementals. So like that's a useful thing to do with Professor of Symbology. We're also rocking Seasoned Pyromancer, super strong card that gives us some selection, and Witch Enchanter, which may seem strange in this deck, but it's very purposeful. The reason is we're playing a number of MDFCs in here to increase the colored spell density for pitching to Fury and Solitude. So that's what these are, is to function as lands, as also pitch cards, and good blink targets in and of themselves. Pinnacle Monk can bring like an Ephemerate or a Bolt back into our hand, for example. Also, we're using newcomer Phlage, which is a new Theros Titan that basically lightning helixes every time it enters battlefield or attacks. So super strong blink target and just way to grind out games. And I'm excited about this one. Let's jump to some games. This is an interesting hand. It's very Ragavan heavy, but if Ragavan's good, this hand's going to be pretty good because if the opponent kills it, we have more to follow up with. Alright, swamp from the opponent to greedy freebooter. We draw a bolt. And we're just going to run out of Ragavan, hope for the best. It is annoying the opponent has such like a great blocker for it. Alright, Dark Ritual from the opponent. They have bigger plans. Deadly Dispute. So that's actually mana neutral for them, somewhat, because they can make extra treasures. Alright, so they crack the treasures to Deadly Dispute again, which is also going to yield 2 treasures. And they play a land. Another Dark Ritual, okay. Beseech the Mirror, sacrificing the last treasure. This is quite the turn 2 from the opponent, so they hit us with the tendrils, the storm count of 6. So I'm going to accelerate through that, because they have to target the player each time, so no fault of their own, it takes forever. And just like that, we fall to 6 at the start of our turn 2. So this is going to be an uphill battle. We already know that basically every card from the opponent is going to be useless. I mean, an Ornithopter is not nothing, I guess, so we can play the Ornithopter. And what do we do now? The problem is we don't really have much action. We have to crack this land to get things going. Get the basic. Didn't expect to be fetching basics on turn 2, but here we are. Seems like a good time to play Seasoned Pyromancer and just ditch the extra Ragavans. Like, the opponent's not looking to interact with us. We're not going to need those. We get Fury and then Professor of Symbology. Not to mention, our high density of like MDFCs and stuff gets us more tokens off Seasoned Pyromancer. So that's something. Now, the opponent seems like they have to like recharge for another like Storm Bomb against us. And we drew a Deadly Dispute, which is pretty interesting because we can sack Ornithopter to it and try and make something happen. And it's going to rebait like a treasure anyway, so it seems like we might as well fire it off. Alright, we do finally find we find another Ephemerate. The question is, do we just run out Fury? Fable seems a little too slow, like we gotta just get them dead. So I'm going to pitch it to Fury here. And we're not, have to hold full control to make sure you can respond to your own triggers. But we're gonna Ephemerate Fury just to get a 3/3 double striker into play and like drastically increase our clock against them. And go ahead and pass here with Bolt and Ephemerate up. Like we could have played a Professor of Symbology, but still, like, if the opponent played a creature, it might be useful to kill it. Alright, the opponent's just running out a Beseech the Mirror. So basically it's a demonic tutor. They didn't have any artifacts or enchantments to sacrifice to it. So we're going to crack the fetch and grab a Surveil land. Try and power up our next turn. Samwise is strong, but it's not what we need right now. And in the sake of being mana efficient, we're just going to bolt them and really try and just clock the opponent here. Now we do have a free rebounded Ephemerate here. The question is, do we use it or not? We can opt out of it, but it seems pretty important, especially the opponent just tutored something. Like we're almost dead to like Ornithopter into Tendrils of Agony. So what I'm fishing here for, I'm fishing for a Solitude, which we did happen to draw off the flickered Pyromancer. So we're conceding a little bit of damage right now for like the safety valve of a Solitude, because we're at 4 life. All right, we get another Ornithopter from them, so at least that stopped them from possibly from Ornithopter into Tendrils. But we're in a precarious spot, and like if we can just survive a little bit longer, we can kill them. Alright, so opponent plays a greedy freebooter. And they have Village Rites. So I was feeling a little bit better after that, but they still have the requisite 4 mana at this point. And they fire off Tendrils, 2 Storm Count. So basically they're hitting us for 6 damage right here. And this is why I was so keen on frantically digging for a Solitude. Because what we can do now is pitch cast Solitude, targeting our own creature to gain a chunk of life. Now unfortunately we have to target our best threat right here in Fury. Solitude does specify one other target creature, otherwise I would totally just target itself. Decide it is worthwhile to Ephemerate the Solitude because it gives us another threat and also will pad our life total a little bit. So we are going to Solitude our own copy of Fury, gain our way up to 7, and we're going to speed through the Tendrils right here. We're going to fall to 1. We're going to decline the rebounded Ephemerate. We're going to fire up Den of the Bugbear. We're trying to get as much damage as possible right here. So we could send in with everything, and honestly I should just hit attack all and then unattack the Ornithopter, but doing it the dramatic way, sending in and seeing how much damage, I didn't even know how much damage it was. And they knocked them to 2, and we just gotta hope they didn't find like another Tendrils and a small spell, and they didn't. So if you enjoy seeing Storm get swarmed, please Legion Guildmage tap ability like button, and we're on to the next one. So just an incredible grindy win against Storm right there. So lead with another turn 1 Ragavan against a Luris deck. Let's see what the opponent has. Alright. At this point I'm letting my hopes get up. I'm like, alright, we're gonna hit them with Ragavan. This is amazing. But of course against red-black, that's unlikely. It gets bolted, so we're going to play Elegant Parlor. We do want more lands here, so we're going to play Ragavan, keep the land on top, and let's see what the opponent has. Alright, there's a Kumano Saga. Let's see if this Ragavan survives. Nope, they were able to enable Skewer the Critics and take out Ragavan. We're going to shock this land in and just run out Fable. That's just going to accrue us a lot of value. Opponent shocks in the land. Bump in the night. So this is like red-black burn. And they pass. And I'm worried about Bowmasters here, and our hand is reasonably strong. So I don't pitch anything to it. Maybe they would have had to already have Bowmasters in play before that went off. Either way, our hand's pretty strong. Decide to keep everything. I'm gonna play Professor of Symbology here, and take a look at our lesson board right here. So we have a few options. I end up, none of these other ones seem particularly strong now, so I grabbed the one that can at least be pitched to Fury, as the opponent hits us with an end step Skull Crack. Fall to 11. Kumano's gonna flip, but at least we have a blocker right now. But yeah, the Spirit Summoning is mostly here. Like, I don't really intend on casting it, most likely anticipate pitching it to Fury. Alright, another bump in the night. And Loris is brought to hand. The opponent does not attack. Seems like they might have wanted to send in and force us to do something, but we're starting to amass more creatures here. And decide it's a pretty good time, like, to clear out their board with the Fury right here. We got 2 Ephemerates, like we got a lot of things going on. So we're going to pitch cast Fury and Ephemerate it right here. So we bring it back into play, because once again having a 3/3 double strike in play is just incredibly strong. Not to mention, if it sticks around long enough, we can start copying it with Reflection of Kiki-Jiki and absolutely massacre them. Not to mention, like, just straight up kill them with so many double strikers. So, and once again, at 8 life against burn, it's never a good place to be. But the opponent only has 1 unknown card in hand, so it feels reasonably safe right now. All right, so opponent hits us with Bump in the Night. It's getting a little more precarious, but they do have to do something to stop us. So they're going to attempt to skewer the Critic's Fury, but we have an Ephemerate to save it right here. So fire that up to save it, and honestly, that's just lethal damage right there against them, and the opponent just packs it in. So feeling pretty good about how that one went. I mean, the Fury is so incredibly strong in this format, especially against like the little creature decks. All right, next opponent. Turn 1 Thoughtseize off a basic swamp. Takes our Samwise. Now, note, you have to pay, with all the free spells now, you have to pay attention to priority passing. They were passing priority after they're tapped out, so that's something to pay attention to. Most likely Grief on the other side in mono black. We're going to crack or fetch, Elegant Parlor. Ephemerate's strong, but we already have one, so decide just to bin that one. And could have played the Professor of Symbology, but I wanted to keep Ephemerate up. Opponent goes for an end step Surgical on our Ephemerate, which they already know we have one in hand, so they're getting the benefit of that. So this is sort of a use it or lose it situation, and so I'm gonna just play out a Solitude and go ahead and Ephemerate it. That way we have a 3/3 lifelinker in play. So it is very costly, like we're using a lot of cards in hand to do this. So I don't know, maybe I should have just let the Ephemerate in our hand go. But that's actually a pretty big blow for our deck, because like our main way of scamming people is with Ephemerate. Like we can sort of do it with Samwise, but really it's all about Ephemerate. Sheoldred's Edict is absolutely brutal here because of how many cards we spent to get that Solitude into play. So that's pretty brutal. We're going to just run out Professor of Symbology here. And decide once again to grab Spirit Summoning as a pitch card for Fury. And Necropotence from the opponent. And I'm going to accelerate through this because Necro just takes a long time to do anything with. So the opponent goes deep on Necro. Either this means they were just gambling for a march, or they already had one in hand and knew they were safe. Now, the opponent knows we have no more Ephemerates, because it'd be amazing to blow out a March of Wretched Sorrow right now. which they're going to gain 12 life. If we could blink our creature, that would have been incredible because we would have locked them out of cards, potentially, with their Necro. So, it doesn't feel good to allow them to gain that much life, but here's where we're at. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Decide to... Best course of action right now is probably play it and then pitch cast a Fury right now, using our lesson we have in hand. Because Bowmasters could be problematic, especially with Fable in hand. We might want to pitch some stuff and draw with it, so... Not to mention, it just eliminates their threats. So yeah, just lining up the Fury damage. And we just have a 2/2 Goblin that can make treasures in play, so... Let's see what the opponent has as a follow-up. Castle Locthwain. And opponent fires up the Necropotence. And they go super deep this time, all the way down to 1 life. Which is honestly in this instance, it's a bad sign, because it means they probably already have a march. But they're going to see a ton of cards right now. Now, Grief is pretty brutal, taking away our Fury. As the opponent gathers up 1,000,000 cards in hand. Alright, another Dark Ritual from the opponent. Let's see what happens. And they're firing up a massive March of Wretched Sorrow, gaining 26 life. But the thing is, they haven't presented like any threats against us. I mean, like a Grief's going to take... A solo Grief's going to take forever to kill us. I mean, they will be able to draw more cards eventually. Solitude doesn't seem to be doing anything right there. Samwise is something. The Menace on Grief is annoying, otherwise we could try and like trade it off and force them to keep going deeper into their deck for threats. So opponent's going to go wild with Necro again. Not as crazy this time because they've actually cleared out a significant portion of their deck. You could see they're down to 12 cards in library right now. And they go and pass to us, and they just pitch a bunch of cards. They didn't have anything to march. So I'm going to just run out Samwise here and just hope for the best. Alright, Pinnacle Monk. Would be really strong if we could actually cast it, but we don't have anything to bring back. Like, actually, yeah, it wouldn't be strong right now because we don't have any bolts or ephemerates to get with it. So its best usage right now is to be played as a land. And the opponent has attack Enuma. Was feeling great until I saw that, because that means they're going to get Bowmasters back, which is going to mow down Samwise. So that's annoying because increasing their threats, decreasing ours. Tiny Bones and Okiba Reckoner Raid. So here come all the threats from the opponent. And so they're attacking in. And this seems like, you know, it could be leading into like a Bowmasters to finish off our Reflection. But we gotta do something here. So I'm playing with as much optimism as I can in this situation, because it's obviously very dire for us. Stalactite Stalker. Alright, so the opponent's going to use Phyrexian Tower to activate Stalactite Stalker and kill our blocker, because honestly, Tiny Bones is the most dangerous threat on the board right now because it allows them to recast stuff from our graveyard. So opponent goes deeper with Necro, and they only have 3 cards left, which is actually at least putting us somewhat close to a position of decking them. Which actually, no, never mind. They can't deck with Necro in play, so this is really bad. The fact we didn't draw a blocker right there is really, really bad, because Tiny Bones is going to get back Fury, which is I mean, they're not going to kill anything of ours, but it's a 3/3 double striker, which means we just are going to die to it. And they pass to us, so crack Wooded Foothills. Going to get a Surveil land. And so, we haven't seen it thus far, but we do have Phlage in this deck, and that's what I'm hoping for, is like it can Lightning Helix a couple things and like get us back into this game. So I'm like, oh my goodness, we draw it, yes. Alright, but then I realize, no matter what we kill, we're just dead. Like, if we kill Fury with this, we go up to 6, But the opponent just hits us with tiny bones and then kills us anyway by casting Phlage from our graveyard. Not to mention, I forgot the fact that they had Phyrexian Tower, so they can just deny us the initial life gain, and then yeah, so we're dead. So that was an agonizing one. Took the opponent a while to kill us, and I think we do have a chance in that game. It just sort of, things broke pretty horribly for us, and I think I might have gone way too all in, pitching all those cards for that initial Solitude. So playing against Gigantha, and they fetch a turn 1 Triome. Now this is a very Samwise heavy hand, but they do play okay in multiples because they can like rebuy each other. This is really rough though. A dashed Ragavan, we have no defense against it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab a Surveil land and hope to surveil something lame to the top that they can't use right now. And Ephemerate seems like the perfect candidate. Like, they can use their treasure to Ephemerate the Ragavan, essentially keep it in play, but yeah, so the opponent opts not to use it. So, successfully crisis averted right there. Now, what we're hoping to do now is ambush block the Ragavan with the Samwise. And so yeah, the opponent actually does not dash it out this time. They just run out Ragavan and pass. I'm very curious about what they're holding up with all that. Alright, so opponent cracks their fetch. Let's see what they do. Orcish Bowmasters. That is pretty rough. So opponent's on some sort of domain pile right there. And you have a lot of options right here. Go ahead and crack the fetch. And going to use Phlage right here. The reason is that we don't want to allow them any more hits with Ragavan. Now, opponent has Leyline Binding in response to grab Phlage because they know we're pretty close to escaping it. So that was like a smooth line from the opponent. And the opponent has another Ragavan. So despite our best efforts, we're getting hit by Ragavan again. And they get Professor of Symbology, which is, it's something, but it's sort of anemic if they don't have a lesson board. But it's a free creature. Oh yeah, so they can use the rummage mode of learn. So they're able to get some value and pitch it once upon a time. Now, what I'm seeing here is we have Witch Enchanter in hand, which is like a Reclamation Sage. And it'd be super nice to unshackle our Phlage and then Ephemerate the Phlage and just mow down their stuff. So that's what I'm building towards right here. So we're gonna crack the fetch, shock in a land. This is painful, but we can play a Samwise, which can then return the fetch to our hand. So that's like guaranteeing land number 5 at the very least. Alright, so the opponent's gonna bolt it, which I figured there was a good chance it would get removed. But this is where the power of Samwise comes in. We can actually play the second Samwise, in this case the third one, bring back the one that just died, and still be able to block Ragavan. So that turned out decent for us. Like, we blocked the damage, we took down another Ragavan. Now this is going to be initially painful, but Phlage is going to do so much work here. And we have plenty of stuff building up in the graveyard that we can escape it. But what I wanted to do is like basically eliminate all their threats right here and gain a chunk of life. So we're going to Witch Enchanter Leyline Binding. Phlage is going to return to play with its double triggers. We're going to shoot Orcish Bowmasters, and you have to hold for control. Then we're going to Ephemerate Phlage and then ding the Professor of Symbology. And as this is going on, I'll ask you in the comments, what is your favorite Ephemerate target? Let me know. There's so many good ones to choose from. Is it classic like Mole Drifter or newcomer like Phlage? Let me know. Anyway, we massacre all their creatures and gain a ton of life, and the opponent just packs in. There's way too much value, and like they knew Phlage was coming back. So I love the Theros Titans like Croxa, Uro, and Phlage is no exception. Super strong and a big reason to play this color combo. Alright, another turn 1 Ragavan. And the way our hand is right now, I'm not going to get an untapped land. We desperately need a third land. And so I'm going to keep the Witch Enchanter, because I knew I could untap and bolt Ragavan on my turn, which I almost did until I realized that would have been a mistake. The reason is because if the opponent has a second Ragavan, that would allow them to dash it out on their turn. So we want to make sure we bolt it sometime in combat, or when they don't have enough mana right now, so that we don't get hit by Ragavan. So the opponent's going to Thoughtseize us. And they take Seasoned Pyromancer, which is sort of shocking because that gives us some value from the graveyard. But yeah, I don't know about that choice. Now, Stitcher's Supplier from the opponent is somewhat scary. In a red-black deck, that's usually indicative that it's a breach deck. So not blocking there because you don't want to enable like their graveyard shenanigans. Alright, Bowmasters is going to ding us with the Fable trigger on the stack. Fortunately, we have a Lightning Bolt to clear it out. And against what the opponent has going on, like Fable, like we're just sort of Fable flooded right now. So I'm going to pitch, and we don't have any Ephemerate targets. And we draw more Fables. I'm going to attack in. The question is whether to play out Pinnacle Monk as a land. I go ahead and play Fable to get another Goblin, and I think that might have been a mistake right there. It might have been better to keep Pinnacle Monk so that we can attack with our Goblins, play Pinnacle Monk, and bring back like a Lightning Bolt or something like that. Okay, so Underworld Breach is now painfully obvious. I'm not showing it, but throughout this game I've been checking their graveyard because there's certain ingredients they need in their graveyard to go off with Underworld Breach, like something like a Dark Ritual or Diabolic Intent, something like that. Pitch some cards, draw some lands, no big deal. Thinking about bringing back Pyromancer. It's not super great right now. It's looking pretty bad. Alright, Dark Ritual from the opponent. They surveil land away. And here's Underworld Breach, which is not great. So I've been, like I said, I've been examining their graveyard, and currently they don't have a way to they don't have like the win con right now. And then I see Diabolic Intent from their hand and realize that it's over. Basically, they can keep escaping Stitcher Suppliers and Dark Rituals to generate mana and then hit us with the Storm Kill. So I just needed to see one more piece of the puzzle, and they happen to have it in hand. So we move on to the next one, and we're facing a turn 1 Leyline of Sanctity, which I can imagine is only become more and more popular in combo decks because of the prevalence of Grief. Turn 0 protection from Thoughtseize and Grief is like incredibly powerful. So opponent bolts in an MDFC and plays a Chromatic Star. And I mean, we're feeling pretty good about turn 1 Ragavan though. That's not dealt with. Alright, we rip another MDFC. And I've actually played eggs before, so seeing Chromatic Star was first making me think of eggs. But it's not eggs, it's actually Goblin Charbelcher. And that's because of all the MDFC lands. They can't have any real lands in their deck. Playing Professor of Symbology. Now, I'll link those videos for eggs and Charbelcher. So, we keep missing on lands though. As you could see, we have a Witch Enchanter in hand, which seems like it's going to be amazing in this matchup. We've already seen a lot of enchantments and artifacts. Alright, so opponent's going to crack Chromatic Star to enable a Dark Ritual. And firing off a Goblin Charbelcher. So they're probably just going to untap win right now. According to what their hand is, they can just play a land, activate Charbelcher, and we're dead. Unfortunately, we have Witch Enchanter. Now, we've missed on lands this whole time, but saved up the treasures from Ragavan. I purposely did not spend them because I knew we would need Witch Enchanter. And it should just be an absolute backbreaker. These decks have to go so all in to play their combo pieces that us, like, wrecking their Charbelcher right there means they probably don't have enough resources or time to rebuild, and they pack it in. It was very interesting trying to scam people in red-white. Like, it's obviously not as potent as, like, turn 1 grief scamming, but there's some other upsides. Like, we can absolutely annihilate creature-based strategies by having so many Furies and Solitudes. Like, there's no threat we can't deal with repeatedly with all these in here. And so we also have life gain and a bunch of card selection. So this deck has a really decent ability to, like, grind out certain matchups. Not to mention we do have a little bit of protection against show and tell by having, like, effectively some, like, Reclamation Sage's main board. So there is that going on. But this is a very fun and interesting strategy. We possibly want more Seasoned Pyromancers. They seemed really strong as a way to, like, sort of ditch matchup irrelevant cards. Problem is, I'm just really pressed on Mythic Wildcards now. I only had 2 of them that I could spare, so might want more of these. But yeah, I'm very pleased about how this deck went, and I think there's potential for it. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to see even more nonsense, please consider subscribing. And if you're already subscribed, thank you for your support. Your engagement with the channel helps me know what the people want. Thank you.